Hey guys, my name is Jason with Mount Baker Mining and Metals, and today we're going to run a sample of PC boards through our hammer mill and shaker table, crush them up, and try and get the precious metals and base metals out of them. We have 3 different samples here, and what do you guys think? Those low grade? I'm not a real board expert here, but they've got some stuff on them. Here's what they're calling mid-grade boards. Kind of see what these are. They don't have any, I don't know. Got some of these, what do they call them, flat packs, I guess. There's a bunch of gold pins, it looks like. These little guys. So that's mid-grade. And then this is the high-grade stuff. And I think these are motherboards, right? Is that what these are? These are motherboards out of computers. But they've got these little gold chips in the corner. This one's pretty nice. It's got a bunch of them. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to be running. Let me go show you the system. Here's the system we're going to be running. You got our 16 by 12 hammer mill up here. Going to feed the boards down the top. It crushes up the boards through a screen, and with water flows down onto the shaker table. Here's our 4x8 shaker table. And I was running a sample of copper wire chops across this last time, so I had this plastic sheet on it. I'm going to take that off, clean the table out really good, but then I think I'm going to put the plastic sheet back on. I kind of like that. I'm going to try that some more. That I use it to break the surface tension and help all the metals fall down and get in the grooves to come over the shaker table. This is the number 1 and the number 2 concentrates. Here's the number 3 middlings and the number 4 tailings. And for this customer, I got those 3 different samples. I'm going to give them all of 1, all of 2, and all of 3 back and take a representative sample of the number 4 tailings. So let's get this stuff fired up and we'll run some boards. Now normally what I do with these big boards is I'd pre-shred them through one of our big hammer mills. But we've sold all our demo equipment and everything. So I need to get them a little bit smaller to go in the little PCB system. So I'm using our iron worker in the shop just to shear them into smaller pieces. That way they'll fit down the throat of that hammer mill. Here I can actually do 2 at once. See if I can make this work here. Double production. And there you go. Finished product. Ready to go in the hammer mill. I'm going to start with the low-grade boards first because that way we don't contaminate with some of the higher value boards if we're going backwards. But I've got the low-grade boards. I'm going to put them in buckets. I'm going to get a weight on them, and then we'll get a total weight, and we'll start running. All right, total weight on all the low-grade is 22.1 kilograms. All right, we'll take a quick look here at what we recovered. This is the low-grade material, low-grade boards. This is the #1 fraction, the high-grade concentrates. Pretty much pure metal, a lot of copper you can see. This stuff on the table had a lot more gray stuff in it, so I think it had a lot more solder, that tin lead solder probably. But there's our #1. Here's a look at our #2. There is still quite a bit of copper, and it's pretty much all metal, but a lot more aluminum in the #2 concentrates. A few little pieces of plastic board, but that's, I mean, by weight, that's 99, 98% metal. So those two are the concentrates. Here's a look at our #3 middlings. So I can get this focused here. Pretty much all plastic. There might be some aluminum flakes in there. It's kind of hard to tell with the white insulation. And maybe every once in a while a stray copper hair wire or something. Don't trust the stuff in my finger because I was just in the #1 and #2, but like there's maybe a flake of copper. But this is mostly plastic. So that came pretty clean. And then here is a sample of the #4. And it's mostly sludge. I'm not even going to stick my hand in there. But I got a little bit of sample in #4. But a lot of that is just slime, sludge. There's not much in there. So I'm going to get all these bagged up and weighed. Actually, before I do that, the low-grade stuff had a lot of these big, huge aluminum heat sinks on them, stuff like that. And I manually took that off with a hammer. I took that off because putting that stuff down the hammer mill with a 0.8 millimeter screen, that's not what it's designed to do. There's a huge transformer. All that steel, it's just not designed to do that. So the best thing for these would be to pre-shred these through a bigger hammer mill, like a 2 or 3 inch hole or slot screen. Have a guy picking out all these bigger pieces of aluminum and metal before they go into the smaller hammer mill. But we'll get a weight on all this stuff and figure out where the metal is and how much we recovered. Here's the results from our low-grade boards. We had a total of 22.1 kilograms. I picked off 2.5 kilograms. So this is how much that actually went through the system. The #1 and the #2 weighed 7.15 kilograms. That leaves 12.4 kilograms in #3 and #4, which is more or less waste. And when you divide 7.15 by the total weight, it ended up being 36% metal. Now, one of the things I got raked over the coals on a previous video I did about weighing wet, and everybody got all concerned about me weighing wet. The reason why I don't think it's a big deal, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not trying to start a huge YouTube, feud here, but copper by weight is 9 times heavier than water. So if this jug had equal parts water and copper by volume, it would be 90% copper by weight. So I'd be 10% off if I weighed it and said it was all copper. This stuff is like, 99% copper, 95% copper. So the amount of water in here, the density is so small compared to the metal that it's like almost irrelevant, the water weight in here. That's my thought. Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys tell me, what do you think the amount I'm off is in a percent by weighing it damp? And, again, this is like, there's no water coming out of it. It's just damp. What do you think? Leave a comment below. This might give us a little bit better look at what's in here. This is the #1. There's a lot of copper, a few pins. I expect there's quite a bit of steel in here as well. So it should by rights be run under a magnet and see what they recover as far as steel is concerned. But there's the #1. We'll slide over here to the #2. And again, these are all low grade. Let's see, can I get in the shadow here? There we go. But there's a few little pieces of board, a few little pieces of plastic, 99% metal, some finer stuff in here. It looks like there's more kind of hair wire and stuff. So anyway, there's the low grade number 1 and number 2. Moving on to our mid-grade boards here, and it doesn't look like there's anything for me to pick off of these guys. So these will run through pretty easy and fast. But let me get a weight on these, and then we can get them run through the hammer mill. Well, now I'll take a look at the results from the mid-grade boards. And here is the number 1. And I think there's actually less by weight, or maybe just about the same, in number 1 and number 2. I haven't weighed them yet. But most of those boards weren't populated. And so I think mostly what comes across into the number 1 is like the pins and the larger pieces of copper. And there just weren't very much of those. Number 2 has more volume, and it's a lot flakier. It's more flaky, like the copper laminated between the boards. And I think that's what most of the weight in these boards were. There were some that had some pretty nice gold plating on them. But for the most part, it's that copper flake. Here's the number 3 middlings, and there's actually some copper in here. You can see when I dig down, you get into some of it. I don't know if you can see it in there, but there's definitely some going across the 2 safety grooves into the number 3. And again, they're like super flat, flaky copper pieces. Some still have pieces of board attached to them, like they're the laminations between the fiberglass. But there's not a whole lot here. This was all the boards we ran. And this could very easily be run back through the hammer mill and onto the table to capture a lot of that copper. Since what happens is most of the copper floods across the number 1 and number 2, and there's only a certain capacity the table can take. And so any extra copper, the lightest, flakiest stuff, gets pushed down into the number 3. Now that this is all ground up, you could run this back through the hammer mill in like 5 minutes or less, run it back onto the shaker table, and recover a huge percentage of this copper. So here's the results from the mid-grade boards. We started out with 32.7 kilograms, Number 1 and number 2 weighed 11.1 kilograms. We ended up with 21.6 kilograms in number 3 and number 4. There's probably a little bit of metal in there in number 3, but not a whole lot. And at 11.1 kilograms, that's 34% metal. So that's pretty good recovery on those mid-grade boards. Lots of copper, not a lot of populated boards in there. So mostly copper with probably some gold from the plating. Now we're going to run our server boards. That's what the tag says. And they've got all kinds of goodies on them. They've got a bunch of gold pins. They've got, I don't know what that is. These things we talked about earlier, those little gold chips on the corner. These things got all kinds of stuff going on. So we're going to run those. Let me get a weight on them. Altogether, we have 23.2 kilograms of server boards. So I took that sheet off the shaker table, as you noticed in the last one, and I'm going to run the server boards with it off as well. And the reason is I had this foam start coming out of the hammer mill, and man, it's just like thick, foamy junk. There's probably 2 or 3 inches of it on top. And it's like, it's heavy. I mean, it's real stiff. It's almost like whipping cream. Does anybody know what that is? What do you think that is? And how do I get rid of it? Because when I was running with the plastic on the table, man, it just like ballooned up and made these huge blobs, and it kind of gummed up under the plastic sheet. It wouldn't come out. And it's obviously filling up my settling pond. It doesn't seem to be hurting anything, but you know, it's kind of a pain, and I got to scrape it off or scoop it off and get rid of it. So if there's something I can put in the water to knock all that foam down, let me know. Leave me a comment below. And here is our concentrates from the server boards. There's our number one. Looks very similar to the mid-grade boards. There might be a few more pins and stuff in here, but probably more precious metals. I think this is where the precious metals go based on all the pins, the gold plating, and if there's any free gold wires, they're so dense they come into the number one. Here's the number two. This is, again, mostly copper flake. Looks like the copper laminated between the fiberglass. I don't see any pins in here at all. I bet this stuff is mostly copper and a little bit of aluminum you can see here on the edge. But that's the number two. And then the very similar looking stuff to the mid-grade. It's mostly plastic, a little bit of copper flake, but based on the weight of the bucket, there's probably not a whole lot of copper in here because the bucket doesn't weigh very much, based on the volume of stuff I have in here. So there's the number three. And again, we got number four, that sludge kind of stuff again. So I'll get this stuff weighed and figure out what we recovered. And here's the server boards. We started with 23.2 kilograms, number one and number two weights there. That leaves 13.75 kilograms in number three and number four. The 9.45 kilograms of metal we recovered is 41% metal by weight. So these are obviously the highest metal content and probably the richest as well. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching our tests. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any interest in any of our equipment, you can find our contact information down below in the corner. And we do run tests for customers. So if you're interested in running some tests with us, give us a call or shoot us an email. We do charge for the service. We'd love to talk about it with you and hear about your problem and maybe come up with a solution for you. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.